All right, you should be good to go.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Sarah Lee. I'm the chair of the PCLA, and thank you for joining us, the Parent Community Leadership Alliance Candidate Forum. So, before we begin, I want to read the PCLA Native Land Acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas. It rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native people of the Kalapua, Chinook, Molalla, and the Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. And we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations. All right, so a little bit about the PCLA. We are a volunteer-driven committee that works to engage the community in conversations and create partnerships that enhance the quality of the North Clackamas schools. We take a solution-based approach to challenges that are presented to us, and we work as an advisory committee to support both the community and our schools. PCLA has been around for 15 years. At least. And this is, I believe, our eighth forum. So we believe in the importance of elections and getting out information to voters. I want to thank everyone for being here. It's a busy group. And thank everyone for all the volunteers that work to put on this event. And anyways, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to someone who did a lot of work to put on this forum. Stephanie Rose is our moderator tonight. Take it away, Stephanie.
Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Rose. I'm a parent volunteer in the North Clackamas School District. This has been my home for a long time. And so the PCLA, we always hold this candidate forum, both for our state and local elected representatives, just because, as Erin said, we believe in the importance of election information getting out to people. I do want to say that the PCLA works diligently to secure commitments to attend this forum from all candidates. We understand that sometimes candidates have other commitments and are unable to attend. We are appreciative of the candidates who are able to join us tonight, as we know their schedules are very busy. Some of our forum members do have to leave promptly at 7:30 for another commitment, so it is very incredibly important that we stay on time tonight. Your first question asked will be your introduction question, and you will have a minute and a half, 90 seconds to answer that. And the following questions, you will have 60 seconds to answer them. We did use a Google form to collect questions from the community, and a committee went through and selected those that represented the topics as well as the geographical region of the area. So with that, I should mention that if you don't want to answer a question, you are welcome to pass. Everyone has been given the order ahead of time, and it is as you are listed in the voters pamphlet. It's by, just so people at home know, it is by your position number and then by name. So the intro question, and April, you get the honor of starting for us. So the first question is, as the topics of this forum focus on public education and family issues, can you tell us what you have done in the past to support public education and families, and how you will continue to support public education and families if you are elected?
Thank you, Stephanie. My name is April Dobson. I am the Democratic nominee for House District 39. And I guess the few things that I'll mention in the 90 seconds I have is that I am, of course, a member of the North Clackamas School Board, and I've served there now for over a year. I'm really proud of a lot of the work that we've done in this past year. And I think the fact that our school district is doing so well is why a lot of people are moving here. Our literacy and graduation rates are up year over year. Our budget is balanced, and we haven't had to cut any money to classrooms or lay off teachers. And I feel like we are spending our constituents' taxpayer money on the things that we know work, and that every district across the state should be doing the same. I'm proud that we've taken our cell phones out of schools so that kids can focus on learning and being kids. And I'm proud that we were able to keep our critical service hub, the Wichita Center, open, which was not just a school board fight, but a community fight as well. Additionally, I spent some time in a larger school district in Southern California, trying to get a district-wide access assessment done in the Los Angeles Unified School District, which eventually ended up reopening over 300 libraries in that district that have been closed due to budget cuts.
All right. Thank you, April. Elvis, you're up next.
Hello, Elvis Clark, retired economist. If I'm going to answer the question in reverse order, if elected, I will make funding K through 12 education of highest priority, topped only by having to fund more money towards state road maintenance. Thomas Jefferson is high on free public education, and so am I. He supposedly said of free public education, it is the keystone of the arch of government. In other words, K through 12 education is a critical basic function of government. Access to K through 12 education is critical for building the job skills and life skills of our young people so that they can overcome the inevitable challenges they will encounter later as young adults entering the workforce and other pursuits. It also should lead to good habits in diet and exercise. I'm extremely grateful during my own upbringing for JFK inspiring young people to take up exercise, public physical education. And I'm a little light on the experience in helping school districts. I did help with other neighbors successfully advocate for safety improvements on one of the pathways for students going to Ardenwell.
Thank you, Elvis.
Yeah,
Representative Gamba, you are up next.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. Really happy to be at this forum. So I'm Mark Gamba, State Representative, House District 41, running for my second term. I was formerly the mayor of Milwaukee for 2 terms, 8 years, and on the council before that. Unfortunately, neither city government nor me and my current committee assignments have any intersection with education directly. I only see education bills when they come to the floor. What I can talk about is the things that I've focused on for families in our region is housing affordability. It was a priority as a mayor. We changed a lot of zoning and code. We have 500 units of affordable housing breaking ground as we speak in Milwaukee. We purchased land specifically for housing for homeless families of school kids. That project is yet to be done. It's also still what I'm focusing on. I'm the vice chair of housing and homelessness in the legislature, and bringing several bills this session that will make housing less expensive to build and hopefully start building housing. I'll stop.
Thank you, Representative Gamba. Representative Nguyen, you are up now.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Representative Hua Nguyen. I represent House District 48, which represents parts of East Portland and Damascus, and I'm running for re-election for my second term. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because my entire career is really dedicated around public education and serving students and families. I've worked in public education for almost 15 years now. And I also currently serve on the David Douglas School Board, and I am a student and community engagement specialist at the Clackamas Education Service District. And during my first term, I serve on the House Education Committee, as well as I'm my vice chair of the Early Childhood and Human Services Committee. So a lot of my work overlaps with one another, and I have been able to serve my community in varying capacities in my different roles as a leader and a person as part of the education community. Two of my key wins in the legislature that I am really proud of that supports directly our students and families in education is as a vice chair of the Early Childhood Human Services Committee, I reestablished the Child Care Alliance, which to address the affordability crisis around childcare. And the Alliance brings together business leaders, labor organizations, and community groups to increase access to affordable childcare. And within the Alliance, we were able to secure $99.2 million for employment-related daycare, and also $5 million for the CHIP Act funds for childcare within the semiconductor industry. Currently, I am co-chairing a work group to address the chronic absenteeism crisis in Oregon. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Nguyen. All right, Craig, you are up next.
Hi, my name's Craig Roberts. I'm the retired Clackamas County Sheriff, and I have spent the majority of my career working to improve the lives of children and families and have many examples, although due to time, I'm just going to focus on a few here real quickly. Really, after responding to 3 active shooter situations, 2 of which were at schools that I responded to, was invited by Obama back to Washington, D.C. to be a part of a work group to look at how we could improve safety in our schools. Representatives from Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, a number of schools around the country were there. I will say I came back extremely touched and motivated about what we could do to improve schools on a statewide level. Came back, formed a legislative task force. I was a chair of that task force, Safe Schools Task Force. Vice chair was Dr. Dave Novotny from the Salem-Keizer School District. Department of Ed, Salam Noor, and both Colt Gill were on that during that, along with many, many other representatives. So we really began looking at, first of all, data within our schools as concerns. And what really rose to the top, unfortunately, was the mental wellness of our youth, and most concerning, suicide in our schools and at home. So we looked at some national best practices. We identified some of the top models, and we determined that we needed a confidential text tip line. We brought that plan back. I testified in front of the legislature a number of times, and I ran out of time there.
Very much. Thank you. And Melissa, we'll move on to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for hosting this event tonight. My name is Melissa Fireside, and I'm running for Clackamas County Commission Position 4. I'm a working mom, and I am extremely passionate about making sure it works for everyone. I really do believe the county is where the rubber hits the road, and we have very important initiatives over the next 4 years that need to be executed seamlessly and meet the needs of our taxpayers. Whether we're talking about building housing to scale or shepherding our SHS tax dollars, keeping our community safe for economic development. We have so much exciting work to do. My support for public education starts with my own public education. I am a product of public schools, and that now continues to my 8-year-old son, who is in Lake Oswego Public Schools. I take a giant leap of faith every day and send my son off to spend the majority of his day with essentially strangers that are outside of his family. And I'm so thankful for the dedication of the teachers and all of the workforce that help raise my kid and all the other kids in his district across Oregon. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm super passionate about labor and public education. So anytime those two intersect, I'm super excited. One of the ways I got activated in government was actually advocating for PLAs within our bonds within Lake Oswego. We are rebuilding a bunch of our schools. And I have worked behind the scenes to help make those agreements work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your introduction question. I appreciate all of the work that you're doing and have done. So this one is on a similar vein, but slightly different. So not what have you done, but what are you hearing from your constituents and community is the biggest concern involving public education and family issues? And how are you intending to address that concern if elected? Elvis, you are or I should mention, by the way, this is from the Milwaukee feeder area submitted by Emily Tucker. And Elvis, you can start off that question. You are muted. I'm going to go ahead and let Aaron restart that super quick.
Okay. Oh,
Great, there you
a
go.
lot of little kids in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood has been very fortunate. A lot of children have moved from, or families have moved from Portland into Milwaukee for the education and other benefits here. And we've what I hear is they like the school a lot and they really appreciate the local schools here. And not hearing a lot of concerns about the children here. They seem to be really eager to go to school, and so I don't have much to offer there. Thank you, though.
All right, thank you very much for your response. Representative Gamba, you are up next.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I started to touch on it before. What I'm hearing mostly, top issue, one of the top issues from families in the district is housing affordability. And we have a lot of work to do there. Roughly 2,000 working families are being evicted every month in the state of Oregon. That obviously contributes to the homeless crisis, which sets children up for a very tough life when they're changing schools and all of the other things that go along with not being rooted in housing. So that's been my focus. We are, a group of us are working on bringing the concept of actual social housing to bear in Oregon, which our goal is to be producing 10,000 units of affordable or of housing that would be for sale at about $250,000 per unit. And so that we can start getting the working class in a situation where they have home ownership opportunities, which don't exist at this point. The market is just way too hot for that. So that's the really, really big thing we're working on. I'm also bringing a bill that would increase the minimum wage to a livable wage.
Thank you very much, Representative Gamba. Representative Nguyen.
Yes, so currently, just to go off of my intro, chronic absenteeism continues to be one of the prime priority issues for public education. It's something I've worked on for the last 10 years in my public education career to address chronic absenteeism in schools. So I bring that lived experience into the legislature. Unfortunately, Oregon ranks number 4 in the nation. We're on the highest absent rates, and that is intersecting with things that Mark Gamba just recently shared about with housing, homelessness, poverty, also mental health challenges, and also increased mental health issues around students with special education. And so there's a lot of intersectionality when it comes to attendance. And I think it's the first key area of data where I think schools can address to really improve outcomes for their schools. And so currently I'm co-chairing a work group with Senator Weber, who's a Republican out in Tillamook, to really bring key priority issues in the 2025 session. And we've met for about 6 months already, monthly, and it brings together stakeholders within parents.
Thank you very much, Representative Nguyen. All right, Craig, we'll move on to you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I hear a lot of good things. I want to start with that. There's really a lot of positive things that I hear about what's happening in our schools, that we have tremendous committed teachers that really go above and beyond in many ways. And but I do hear constantly from a broad range of group, just the cost of living is really having an impact on people, from food to electricity. And so if you're in that medium level income, just imagine what lower level income people are struggling with. And I hear that as one of the top things. Also, when I talk to counselors that actually are working with youth in the community, I'm hearing a lot about the impact of COVID on some of these youth and how that's impacting their school, social skills, and a number of other things that they're challenged with. So I think that that is one of the things I have a big passion for. No.
Thank you very much. All right, Melissa, you're up.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. So Universal pre-K continues to be a conversation that I have with almost every single working parent, including myself. I can't imagine what it would have been like to have access to that in the state of Oregon. Also hear a lot about our neighborhood schools being impacted by low enrollment rates. So whether we're looking at Westland Wilsonville, or even in my particular district in Lake Oswego, we're looking at closing neighborhood schools, which were actually like a draw for families to come here. And then in addition to that, even if there is a draw to a neighborhood school, the lack of accessible workforce housing is just a huge impact on everyone's quality of life. Beyond that, I will say that, our reading, writing, and arithmetic rates for all of our kids across the board in Oregon really need to be improved. And I think that's top of mind for every single parent who has a kid in public school, myself included. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And April.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, I'm really lucky that my district is centered here in the North Clackamas School District because we have a very engaged community who cares deeply about their public schools and can always be counted on with the resources they have to contribute to the funding of our school district. And because they're willing to do that, we don't have to make those budget cuts that other districts are having to make. And we're able to see our literacy and our math skills rates rise, as well as our graduation rates. But that's not to say that our community doesn't have concerns. They would, of course, like to see adequate and stable funding for public education across the state, not just here in our North Clackamas community. They're also interested in having the special education cap lifted so that districts aren't pulling out of general funds in order to meet the needs of the students in their districts who aren't covered by the 11% before we hit the cap in Oregon.
Thank you very much, April. And so moving on, several of you touched on this as you obviously we're talking about schools. Our next question is about school funding, and this will be for the state candidates only. So we'll have our commissioner candidates sit this one out. But the question is, given that public schools are not fully funded per the quality education model and the continued cuts districts across Oregon are having to make, how do you feel you can address this issue if you are elected? And Representative Gamba, you will have first shot at that one.
All right, thank you very much. Hopefully I can do this in a minute. The reason we have such difficulty funding our schools is because of measures 5 and 50. Before 1990, the vast majority of funding for schools came from property tax. Now, the majority of funding comes out of the state's general fund. That is not a magic pot of money that is limitless. The reason we as a state fail on or ranked the lowest on so many things, including mental health care, including getting employees who have had wages stolen, justice, all of those things are due to lack of funding. We have to fix our property tax system. We have to fix Measure 5 and 50 if we hope to have schools back to what they used to be pre-1990 and have the state be able to do all the other things it's required to do.
Thank you very much, Representative Gamba. Representative Nguyen.
Yes, thank you. Just going off of what Rep. Gamba was sharing about taxes, I do believe in a tax system that works fairly for everyone, not just for the wealthy or big corporations. We must ensure that large corporations and high income earners are paying their fair share so that we can fully fund education, healthcare, and other essential services that all of us Oregonians rely on. Right now, I think too much of the burden falls on working families, and that's not sustainable. But at the same time, I'm also committed to responsible use of taxpayer dollars. And we need to ensure that any increase in revenue directly benefits our schools, improves services, and addresses critical needs like affordable housing and mental health care. Raising taxes isn't my first choice, but if it's necessary, it must be done in a way that is fair, transparent, and results in tangible improvements for our communities. And ultimately, it's about finding smart, balanced solutions that don't leave working families behind while ensuring schools and essential services are fully supported. And it's important to note that we have 197 school districts across the state of Oregon, And we are a local control state when it comes to public education funding. And so
All right, Representative Nguyen, we had some timer errors there. I'm sorry. But you were at 1 minute, so thank you very much. All right, next up we have April. We'll get
Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. So I was really hopeful when I saw that Governor Kotek had done some work with the education funding model to calculate the current service level for funding education in the state of Oregon. And I am really happy that there's an extra $500 million that will be, flowing towards public education for our Oregon students. What I'm interested in at this point is seeing if we can pick a thing and try to make it work better than it's currently working. We have 197 school districts across the state. Each of them spends their money, however they see fit. And we don't have a good accountability system for how that money is spent. So you're seeing vast differentials between some smaller school districts and, for example, our district. So I'd like to look at accountability for, how that money is given out and how it's spent going forward.
Thank you very much. And then as we come back around full circle, Elvis, you are up next on this.
Yes, Oregon is in kind of a bind when it comes to ability to pay for more things. We have a high cost of living. We're up in the top 10 of high states for cost of living, and then we're also above average for taxes. Our incomes are not real stellar, so we're kind of hurting, and we're already beginning to lose the middle and upper classes, which support the whole social safety network to other states. So, but fortunately, we're blessed because we got the corporate kicker forecast to have $900 million in surpluses this biennium. The Corporate Activity Act tax is raising $1.4 billion in a year. That's a newer thing that's come on. And lottery, its Education Stability Fund is in good shape too.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question will be addressed towards our county commissioner candidates. And this one comes from Nicole Perry in the Milwaukee Feeder area. And it says, what is your view on active transportation in Clackamas County? How can roads become safer for all users, especially as it pertains to our students who walk, bike, or ride public transportation to school? And Craig, we'll go ahead and have you start that one off.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that there's a number of road improvements that need to happen in the county, and sidewalks and routes to school need improved. I think what we've talked about a little bit here is it does come down to the funding and how do we do those. I think that also I was at another meeting where I heard an innovative way where actually in Multnomah County, they had a pilot project where actually youth got a free TriMet bus pass. And I think that would be a great asset also to help our youth in the county to take advantage of that service. So I think, right now, the priority is really also identifying those safe routes to school and really taking one of those at a time and trying to address it. We have a number of those, and the county has had a struggle, I can say, just.
Thank you very much. All right, Melissa, we will move on to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. So I think first and foremost, like the county is literally responsible for the unincorporated sections and not the cities. And so I think that there is an opportunity to make sure that there's connectivity because those boundaries don't just magically stop and there aren't just students in one area and not another, right? So I think any of those safe routes to schools that are being prioritized, especially in Lake Oswego, we have an unincorporated section of our city where safe routes to school and actually our Title IX school and actually kids that are living in Motel 6 don't have a safe way away to walk to our schools. And that literally rests with the county because that is in an unincorporated region. So I think we really need to drill down and get into specifics about how we can meet that need. And then also we need to work with TriMet because it seems like they're prioritizing places where people work, but not making sure they can get from where they live to where they work. And so I would really like to dig in and work on that specifically. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question is back to all candidates, revolving around houselessness and housing insecurity. And so the North Clackamas School District has several hundred students experiencing houselessness, and even more are experiencing housing insecurity. Further, as students are graduating and becoming adults, they are facing the inability to find their own housing. How do you feel you can help address the housing insecurity issues in our community if elected? And we will go ahead and start that one off with Representative Nguyen.
Yes, and a lot of this work is really intersecting with my work around chronic absenteeism. One of the highest rates of absences do come from students who are homeless and are having housing insecurity. And so there's a lot as a school district that we can do to really help address it, but we need that support in terms of the intersectionality and partnerships that we have with our local jurisdictions, like the county and the city and the state legislator. And so our school districts are the lifeline for many families, especially those who live in poverty. And so how do we equip our school districts to really serve, to really connect our families to those services? And so I believe in really like a holistic approach and really creating family success outside the classrooms is really one of the key priorities to really addressing absenteeism. And so how do we build those partnerships to really connect school districts to be able to get families into housing, but also keep them in housing? So a lot of that is also intersecting with workforce, childcare. And so it's not a one-size solution, it's a system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Craig, we will move on to you.
First of all, great question. I think it most importantly starts by working together. It's so critically important to be working with your city, with our state legislature, and really looking at every possible avenue to really address this. One of the projects that was tentatively scheduled to come to the county, I don't know why it fell off, which is a project called Bridge Meadows. And it's an intergenerational complex where they have seniors and youth, mentors, and a house manager to kind of help people move forward is one option. And that's something I've been looking at. I'm hoping we can bring it to this county. But I also, one of the projects I did personally was as the sheriff, I was able to buy 2 homes with health, housing, and human services. And I put a house manager in there with people struggling with mental illness, one for men and one for women. Well, I would like to see that same kind of concept available to help our youth. I can just tell you, having 3 kids, once you hit that magic number of 18, you have learned it all.
All right, Melissa, we will move on to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. So actually just today at the Board of County Commissioners, our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department came before the board and notified us that we have a 3-year waiting list at Clackamas County to get access to housing through our county programs. I think one of the main issues and something I'm super passionate about is making sure we're building to scale, which has not been a priority. It's not been a priority at the federal level, the state legislature, or within the county. And I really think that we have an opportunity for all of us at all of those levels to really talk about what it means to build to scale and stop talking about the needs analysis, because clearly there's a need. As far as our youth, we have deployed a recovery-oriented system of care within Clackamas County, but we have forgotten our youth population in that execution. And I think that we have an opportunity to make sure that our SHS dollars are being shepherded specifically to our youth population and supporting their needs so that they can learn and have strong outcomes, which bolsters our economy. And thank you.
Thank you very much. April, we'll move on to you.
All right, I'm always slow to get to my mic. One of the things that I know is working, and we probably just need to scale it up, is that many housing providers work with the state and with local nonprofits to support disadvantaged communities, help them obtain housing. I agree with why. I think that our public schools can be an excellent hub for coordinating those efforts. We need to learn, more about the challenges and opportunities that housing providers are facing in their effort to help people in need. And I think at the state level, there's a need for additional staff capacity to support these programs. Many of the local nonprofits that work closely with people in need of housing face severe workforce shortages of their own. But looping our public schools into this will be a big step forward, I think.
Thank you very much, April. All right, Elvis, we will move on to you.
Yeah, a lot of good ideas here. We should raise the priority of our home housing money to first getting to the children and helping them have secure homes. That's big. And so I really support that. And also, Mark Gamba had mentioned the modular home building, and that seems like a really interesting idea that could really lower the cost of building new units and that kind of stuff. So that was a good idea too. And that's all I have on the subject. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So our next question is again for all of our candidates.
I didn't get to answer that question.
Oh, I'm so very sorry. Go for it.
I was waiting.
I'm so sorry. You're so patient. Thank you for
That's all
cutting
right.
me off and letting me know.
That's all right. So housing is one of the critical issues facing all of our society, and specifically families at school age, that have kids at school age. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. So this is why we need a bold new concept like social housing that gets working class families an opportunity for home ownership. And we will be bringing hopefully that this year, if not this year, soon. Another piece that I mentioned, that 2,000 working families every month are being evicted for inability to pay. That means that their rent is not keeping, or their income is not keeping up with their rent. We've taken 2 runs at rent control. We have, I think, failed miserably. I'm bringing a bill that ties the minimum wage to the cost of the average 1-bedroom apartment. Therefore, if you are working full-time, you will be able to afford housing.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry on that skip. Trying to keep track of the round robin is a lot of fun. Okay, so now moving on to our next one, which is for all of the candidates. This is a local as well as a statewide issue, but focused on the North Clackamas community. So recently we had an issue with one of our essential support service centers, which serves North Clackamas, facing the possibility of closing. And we continue to see a need for more services and service centers. In light of these issues, what role do you feel centers which provide social supports play in our community, and how can you advocate for those centers if you are elected? And Melissa, we're going to have you start this one off.
Great. Thank you so much for this question. I think the Wichita Center is a great example of a service center that can be replicated throughout the county. So it's great that it's located in Milwaukee, but Clackamas County runs all the way out to Mount Hood, right? And all the way out into Sandy. And so I really think that there's an opportunity for us to replicate that service model. And it really does tie in with the recovery oriented system of care. The idea is that there's multiple points of entry. So no matter what you're experiencing, whether it's a potential loss of housing or a potential loss of food security, all of those types of things can be addressed in one place. And I think that's a really functional and efficient way for government to actually spend dollars, right? Because everything in one place means that a family that is experiencing this kind of trauma and insecurity can actually go to one place and have all the services. So I really think that this is something that the county should focus on and replicate and make sure is accessible in every community across Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And April, we will move on to you.
Thank you. Yes, the Wichita Center is a really important critical service hub here in North Clackamas, and I would love to see it replicated. I think Melissa has a great idea. And I think in addition, we need to look at expanding our school-based health clinics because those can be a resource for our communities as well. And I think a significant investment in both of those things will result in helping a lot more people who are really struggling and who depend on those services just to put food on their table and keep roofs over their heads and keep their families healthy and safe.
Thank you very much. All right, Elvis, we'll move on to you.
I don't think I have a lot to add other than the state works pretty close with the counties, and the counties, so there's a lot of strings that the state can pull that I would help out with to get Wichita Center, like those kind of things advanced and kept going and helpful to the families around the community. That's all I have.
And Representative Gamba, I'm not going to forget you this time.
Yeah, the Wichita Center is an outstanding example of the kinds of things we can do. Here's some baseline issues that we have with all of those kinds of services. We underpay the people who perform those services. Very often in many of those facilities, the people who are working there qualify to receive services. That's how little they're paid. This is why my minimum wage bill is so critical. We've got to end this situation where people who are giving 40 hours of their lives, and very often much more of that, to their work every week, still do not make enough money to live. That's unconscionable, particularly when many of the corporations they work for are recording record profits across the board. This is something we have to address as a society at large, and we have to stop assuming that it's okay to employ people at a poverty level.
Thank you very much. All right, Representative Nguyen.
Yes, thank you. I agree. Banking off of what Gamba said, addressing the workforce issues around these essential services for supports, especially coming out of COVID. We're seeing a high increase of referrals especially for young people with high acuity. And so I think that these centers are not always equipped to deal with the ever-changing challenges, especially coming out of COVID. And so I am a big believer of collaborative partnerships. And so it shouldn't be all in just one entity to provide these essential services. I think Wichita Center is also a great resource. And I like April's idea around expanding mental health centers or health-based centers, and that's all key. But it's I work at the ESD, the Education Service District, and that's also the untapped resources that we, as an education service district, can really convene regionally across this Clackamas County to really connect families to those resources. And in rural areas, it's even much needed because access is even further away from most families. And so, just geographically, how do we make those more accessible?
Thank you very much, Representative Nguyen. All right, and Craig, you are up next.
Yes, I'm in agreement with April Dobson on this issue, and that is the healthcare clinics. That we have them in some of our school districts, but we actually don't have them throughout the county. And I think that is something that really does benefit schools. And I think it's important to be working with the superintendents to see how we could perhaps get them in more schools in our district, because they bring, to me, a key element. They bring behavioral health services, the physical health, and they can even do referrals for dental. So to me, it is, one of the major functions of a county is health, housing, human services. That is one of the major roles. And that's where I feel like that we can step up as a county and help support our cities and schools in that avenue. And that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you very much. All right, I think I got everyone that time, right? We are on to our last question. I want to thank everyone for being so respectful of the time tonight. We're going to get you out of here on time. So this is our last question for all of the candidates. There continues to be an unmet need for childcare in North Clackamas. Waiting lists for state and county programs such as Head Start are long, and other childcare centers are full or at a cost too high for many working families to afford? What are your feelings about the childcare issues in our community, and how would you seek to address them if elected? In April, you were going to start that one off.
Okay, I think everyone in this forum will agree that Oregon, as a state, is a childcare desert. So we can start there. But with only 50 seconds left to talk about it, I'm going to focus on one little regulatory fix that I feel like should be pretty simple. Something that we can do to increase access and affordable childcare right away would be to change our rule that says no matter the size of your house, no matter how many employees you have, home daycare centers can only have a capped number of children. And that's just silly. So, I mean, that's a simple thing to fix and could get, hundreds, thousands of kids into safe and supportive childcare every single day. And I feel like that's something that we can focus on right away and get changed to make a dent in this really big issue.
Thank you very much. Aldous, we'll move on to you.
Yeah, there is a federal tax credit for families for childcare, and I think I also looked at the care program that North Clackamas School District has for after school stuff, and you still have some student fees in there. I'm not sure that we couldn't subsidize or waive those for low income people so that their children can have a no fee access to that care program afterwards. It's a pretty real good program, it looks like, from what I read about it. And it's right up there helping children advance in their skills and stuff. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Gamba, we'll move on to you.
Yeah, thanks. I like April's idea. My grandmother actually was one of those local neighborhood daycare centers. I think she was taking care of somewhere between 14 and 18 kids very often, and they all thrived. We do have to get more creative in the short term while we begin to solve this. It goes back to two things I've talked about. The folks working are not making enough to live, and what we have to pay the people doing the work, like daycare, is insufficient. We underpay those people, and so it's very hard to staff those programs. That's one of the big difficulties with citing new daycare. We've done some creative things around including space in low-income housing for daycare centers, but getting those staffed is yet another thing because of what we can afford to pay. And we got to fix our revenue.
Thank you very much. All right, Representative Wynn, you are up next.
Yes, thank you. For the time frame that I have, I'll just share like one thing around childcare that I've heard actually from the Clackamas Childcare Alliance out here was around facilities. Workforce, of course, is an issue, and funding childcare costs for parent working families is also another part. But facilities continues to be a challenge for many childcare providers. I think that one areas that we can address, which I will prioritize in my childcare alliance that I co-chair and the legislator, is really around zoning and permitting. We have a mixed delivery model when it comes to childcare in Oregon, and so home base, whether it's a building, that we need to create some, I think, flexibility and for childcare providers to be able to have permitting and zoning. And their fees are just really high for child providers to be able to pay for that. And so how do we really respond effectively and also support our child care providers with facilities? And so that is like the number one issue for most child care providers, to be able to provide safe facilities to be able to meet the needs of their young people that they're providing child care for.
Thank you very much, Representative Wynn. All right, Craig, we will move on to you.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think all of us here today agree we need more childcare. The cost of it is one of the challenges. I can just tell you, as a father of 3 kids, that the childcare that I took our kids to, if you were late, by the minute it went up. And I can only imagine how struggling families do it today because the cost is so much more than when I was raising my kids. And so I think that we do need to be creative. We need to consider looking at sliding scales to make sure that we are inclusive of people that can afford it. And some of the things mentioned, I do think that creating tax incentives and other ways to help people open these daycares and be supported by both the city and the county, and looking at grant funding and any other way to kind of help get these programs off the ground as even new business funding.
And thank you very much. My dog just opened my office door and came in to join me. So, all right, Melissa, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much. This question is near and dear to me. I want to first start. I'm just going to focus on one aspect of this. There's tons of them we can talk to, and I mentioned universal pre-K before that. I think Head Start should be accessible to everybody, not just a certain group of folks. So, but I want to talk about this from an economic development standpoint. If we look at employer-based daycares, we know that productivity and access to a strong, vital workforce actually improves when employers offer on-site childcare. And I think the county would be a wonderful employer to start with that initiative. And I really think that if we can take that and replicate that across the board, that would be really exciting. In addition, the former head of the one of the trades is actually working with one of the largest employers out of Hillsborough to actually bring this initiative of on-site childcare to life for families at Intel. And I really think that we have to start local and really hold ourselves accountable to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. All right, and with that, we have reached the end of the forum. I appreciate all of you, like I said, being so on top of it and on time tonight so we can get you to the next place you need to be. I appreciate you, all of the meetings you go to, all of the forums you go to, whatever you can do to get, your voice out to voters to let them know the issues and what's going on. I appreciate that so very much. I want to thank everyone who's joined us online tonight, and also want to mention that this video will stay online as permanent as it can possibly be. So you can hop on and watch it at any time, share it with friends, family, people in the community, anyone who you think needs to see it. And also remind you to get your ballots in by November 5th. You can drop them at any of the Dropbox locations throughout the county that is available on the county election site. And also to mention that we do now have up to Election Day to mail your ballots in, but I recommend that you at least get them in the day before, just to make sure that you really do hit that mailbox pickup time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin to take us out of here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. If you want to find out more information about the PCLA, you can look at the North Clackamas Schools site, their website. And thank you all for joining. Busy people here, but there was thank you to the community also that worked to put this on, and all the community members that submitted questions. Please, like Stephanie said, get out and vote. Tell your friends to vote. Tell your neighbors to vote. All your loved ones, even if you don't love them, tell them to vote. Okay, and with that, I think the forum's over. Everyone can go off to their busy lives. Thank you so much. And thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. You're muted.